Anybody with eyes can see what happened. How in the hell did it go that way?
Throughout our lives, we're told that the police are people that we can trust and depend on in times of trouble. They play a crucial role in keeping our community safe and are people we often look up to. However, recently the police have gained this notion of being inhumane. So, why is this?
Let's take a look at 43-year-old Eric Gardner from New York. After breaking up a fight, Gardner was hounded by officers who assumed that he was part of the altercation. He attempted to explain the situation in a non-threatening or violent manner. However, the police refused to understand the situation, immediately called backup, aggressively took him down with a chokehold, and violently pressed his head into the pavement. It was determined by a medical examiner. His death was a homicide as a result of excessive force used by the officers in his arrest. After committing the cruel act, all police officers involved in the tragedy were never given sentences. They were merely placed on desk duty and relieved of their duty in the field.
Gardner's death, along with many others, are examples of police brutality, a term used to describe a situation in which abuse of authority occurs through means of excessive force by personnel involved in law enforcement.
For further emphasis, take the murder of Botham Jean. One day, Botham Jean was sitting on his couch watching television when off-duty cop Amber Geiger walked into his home thinking it was her own apartment. However, Botham's apartment was a floor above hers and was clearly distinct. Despite this, Geiger opened fire on Botham without following standard policing protocol of issuing commands ahead of time. After realizing her mistake, she failed to get Botham medical attention and was more worried about her career rather than Botham's life.
I need to get me, I'm in...
Okay, we have help on the way.
I know, but I'm gonna lose my job.
As a result of this incident, Geiger received 10 years in prison for the murder of Botham Jean.
From these cases of police brutality, there is a noticeable and recurring pattern. If we take a closer look, the victims tend to be African American, whereas the assailants are always Caucasian. In fact, in 2012, the FBI reported that although African Americans only make up 13% of the population, 39% of victims of police killings are African American. In addition, recent studies conducted by various universities in the US state that African Americans are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by the police compared to Caucasians. From these statistics, there's an evident racial disparity of the killing of black individuals, and it can be inferred that these accounts of police brutality are indeed racially motivated. In the case of Botham Jean, it was revealed that Amber Geiger mocked Martin Luther King Jr., a leader in the civil rights movement, as well as her other African American co-workers. So, why does this matter?
Well, even though Amber Geiger was sentenced to 10 years and Eric Gardner's family was given $5.9 million in compensation for these crimes, it isn't enough. 10 years is a considerably low sentence for a homicide, and money cannot possibly compensate for the death of a loved one. Therefore, the officers involved need to be held accountable to the highest regard. The justice system should treat officers as if they were any other citizen attacking an innocent individual. Racist officers like Amber Geiger and her colleagues in the force that agreed with their views do not help build a sense of safety for communities that consist largely of minorities.
Additionally, we need to realize that because these police brutality cases are racially motivated, there needs to be more awareness for this issue. By raising awareness, the police will have to act with more morality and reason to win back the trust of the public. With there being a conflict between the police and the minorities, the police won't be able to fulfill their roles within the ghettos or underdeveloped communities.
To conclude, the injustice of police brutality is very prevalent in our lives even today, with its scope mainly focusing on the African Americans. It shouldn't take the lives of innocent people for us to realize that systemic racism is still present in law enforcement. It is important that the law enforcement maintains its integrity and fulfills its duty to provide safety in communities regardless of ethnicity. So, we eventually come to the question, who do minorities go to in a time of need if the police can't be trusted?